It's really important to have a support system around you in life. And I think when, when we were in the JWs, you've got such a large network and system around you where you can kind of pretty much go for anything that you need. And you would be encouraged not to go outside of that framework. When we leave, how do we build a network around us or a support system? What would you say are the most important things to do when thinking about how you're going to do that? So, Kyle, how do you feel? How did you go about building a support network when you left?
I went around by talking to as many people as I could, which isn't an ideal way to do it. It almost helped with the healing a little bit. What I got from it was that people were actually quite receptive. And before I knew it, I was surrounded by people who wanted the best for me because they understood what I'd lost and they wanted this network. And one of them said, "You now need to go and get friends." He said, "I'm too old to be considered your friend." He said, "Really, you should have a group of friends that are the same age, the same caliber of person as you." And initially I thought, well, that's a little bit patronizing thing to say. Because I was like, well, I want to choose my friends. But I went along with his advice and he suggested this app called Meetup. Now, Meetups has been around for 17 years, never heard of it before. In London particularly, there are so many of these meetup things that, well, I just put my name down for all of them. I put my name down for support circles, for Friday evenings. I did a lot. In fact, one of the groups I'm still part of, I'm still getting emails and things for now. I can't seem to get rid of them. And for me, that was perfect because I've got 3 very good friends now that would not ask questions if there was a fight that I was involved in. They would start swinging. And I never really had that in the witnesses. I think in the witnesses, people are a little bit towards a level of narcissism, a covert narcissism, that they don't even realize themselves that they're in. And these 3 friends now, I've only got to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, man, I'm struggling. Can you come over or can I come over there?" And I did have that whilst I was in the JWs, but this means so much more because if I went to him now and I said, "Look, I think I'm gay," that support would be there. There wouldn't be any judgment. And that was the support network that I should have had through years of growing up. And I look back at it now, and Kelvin, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you, buddy. I look back at it and realize, like, we actually helped each other. Whilst I was healing, I had something to offer other people as well. So they were offering me something, and that is a support circle. Before I knew it, I look back at it now, like subconsciously, I didn't realize what I was building. Now I realize there is a support network there that I didn't realize I had. And like I say, 3 of the best people on this earth appeared out of the woodwork, and I'm so grateful to have every single one of them. It took a little bit of putting myself out there. In another one of our episodes coming up, we've got a gentleman called Mark who talks about making yourself almost slightly vulnerable to build any sort of friendships, and it's true, you do. And particularly when you have to build yourself a support system, you do have to make yourself almost vulnerable. You have to bare your scars for other people to look at, so that you can build that support circle. Not to take any merit away from therapy, though. Therapy comes first. You have to work on yourself as well when you start building that.
Yeah. And how about you, Ben? What would you say?
Very much along similar lines, really. It is you have to get and meet everyone. I was going to all the pubs, bars, meeting everyone in the local area. I didn't know about any apps or anything that I could use at the time, but you meet everyone, and like you go to the shops, you meet people, you talk to them, you keep going to the same shop, you'll see the same worker and that. So it's about building little micro friendships, really, and then they will grow over time, leading to a much more supportive, because people are surprised when they hear you're an ex-witness or whatever you choose to call yourself. They are usually floored also by the reaction to you being shunned, because they themselves tend to hold this image that they don't shun people. When people meet someone that's been shunned, they're like, "Oh, so they're lying," and you're like, yeah, they've got to keep an image because that image keeps them sparkly clean and makes us look like the bad ones. So you've got to, like you said, you've got to show your scars and everything, and be the vulnerable. Usually lands up crying somewhere with them, and trauma dumping
Trauma dumping.
your entire sort of experience. But they will generally turn around and they won't believe what you've made it through, because it is hard work. It is the hardest thing you will ever do.
Yeah.
Because it is like losing family. And a funeral, they are hard. They are hard. You lose someone. But if you lose someone as if they're dead, but they're actually alive, and you might see them in a shop, that's harder, because you will want to talk to them, which is where you need the support. To then be able to find someone and give them a hug or whatever you need at the time.
Yeah.
Sort of just to say you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Because you will.
Yeah.
It might not feel it at the time, but you'll make it.
I think it's really important that you've both touched on it, and about being open and honest, and I think that always attracts friendships as well. And I think, we all love a story. A story's great, isn't it? And I think, when you've woken up from being a Jehovah's Witness, you've got a story to tell, and it's quite an interesting one, albeit it might be tragic in certain circumstances, but it's actually an interesting story, and people like to listen to those stories. And I think if you bear yourself, it encourages other people to bear themselves to you too, and that's where you'll bond with people. And I'm exactly the same, where I made friends with a particular person who I'm really, really close friends with, but I was there also at the same time she was going through some stuff, and I could help her. And so just this nice friendship forms, and that's how friendships work, isn't it? It's you're there for each other. And I think if you just start bearing your soul a little bit and finding people to talk to, like you said, it's just, again, I think we're going to talk about it a lot. It's just that initial step, a little step, reach out to somebody, and it grows around you. And also for me, in terms of a network, I mean, I've obviously, you might come into new relationships when you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it's a new relationship with an intimate partner, or new friends, which then leads you to more people as well. So for example, I've got, like, my partner has a son who's sort of adult, and I'm really close friends with his girlfriend. It's just an avenue that opened up just because of a new relationship, and you build on that, don't you? And you build your network out. So again, I think, like everything, as we said many times, it's taking the first step. Have you got any sort of like tips or like personal experiences of something that you did that led on to something really great that you would now consider your support network, where you didn't expect to find it?
Just go for it. If you get an inkling that you should go to a place, just do it, because that's how I met my partner. And that's how I got from being sofa surfer to married, house, business. Sort of, I went from nothing on a whim. I literally messaged someone, and they invited me up to Stoke-on-Trent from Stafford, and I skipped the train. I skipped the train there because I had no money. Got there and met my partner. It's really strange how sometimes, there's been a few times in my life where things just happen, and I've gone, should I, shouldn't I, and just done it. And because I've done it, it's paid off. You don't know who you're going to meet where at any point. You might meet the person that's going to help you this week, this month, just today, for the next hour. Sort of, that's why I also try to smile at everyone that walks past, because that one smile can bring someone's day up, or a few minutes, just a little happiness, because you don't know what they're going through, because behind a smile can be a traumatized soul. And so it's as much support, and making a network is as much you giving as well as you getting the support, because that's how healthy friendships, relationships now work. Instead of it being expected, like as a witness, you expect everyone to just be nice, because that's how you're expected to be. Outside, people are nicer and more genuine, because they haven't been told by a book they've got to. They don't need a higher being to make them a nice, moral person. And so it's nice to meet people who are genuine
Hmm.
and they feel genuine as well. It doesn't feel fake, which is, in the end, it works out good. It's nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think that's the other thing as well, is that I found as a Jehovah's Witness, I had literally hundreds of friends. I could say I had 8 million friends, because potentially if I should meet any one of them in any country, they should automatically be my friend. But even on a local level, your network is absolutely huge as a witness. And overnight you go from this huge network to oftentimes nothing, or maybe one or two people. But actually I just find it less hard work in a way of having sometimes just a few good friends, genuine friends, is much more meaningful
Yeah.
than loads
Quality
and
over
loads
I
of
was just going to
quantity.
say
being
exactly the same thing. Yeah.
like the social
And that's what
butterfly.
Because
Yeah.
it is horrific when you come out. Because
Yeah.
obviously you know what feels like
Yeah.
everyone.
I mean, I did that. So when I first came out, I went mad. I wanted everyone around me to like me. I wanted loads of friends. I want a phone book full of people that I can call on. And before I know it, before I knew it, I was in a couple of really bad situations. That if it wasn't, thankfully, I had a couple of good people around me pointing out, like, you know, this is what's going on, do you? No.
Mm.
Well, yeah, you need to get out of that. My naivety was played upon quite heavily in some circumstances. I'm grateful for those few good friends. I actually brought my phone book back down again, and I just kept those, like I say, those 3 very important friends to me, because that's all I needed.
Yeah.
That is all you need. Just a couple of people that will go to war with you,
Exactly.
not just a yes man. You don't want a yes man. The yes men are terrible as far as personal growth and support networks are growing. If you've got someone and you're trying to grow as a person and build this support network, and you've got someone going, yeah, you should do that. You should absolutely do that, and not have someone go, have you thought about maybe doing it this way, or have you realized something else might be going on here?
Hmm.
That to me was like you said, the quality of friendship versus the quantity.
Yeah.
Because the quality friends are there for me when I need them.
Yeah. And also, if you do have a bad experience with somebody, it's not like when you're in a congregation where you just have to see that person all the time, or you're going to
Mm.
bump into them inevitably at a convention or something like that. It's like you can actually, it sounds a bit harsh, but if people aren't right for you, you can kind of just move away from them and you don't deal with them anymore. Again, it's genuine, it's not fake. It's not like fake smile at the convention. Actually, I really hate your guts, but I've got to smile at you because not that there's anybody particularly hated, but again, it just comes back down to genuineness and not being forced upon. Everything was so forced upon us. Like, you must have people round. I was one of these people who was like, every Sunday or Saturday at some point on a weekend, you'd have to have a social gathering and try and invite the ones who didn't get invited very much. And to be fair, I enjoyed doing that because I liked to try and include people I thought might have been left out of things, and I did actually like doing that. But it's the obligation that you feel to do it. I think when you're doing it just genuinely, just because,
Yeah.
it's such a
And
much
making
nicer
sure you
feeling.
get the one that isn't coming to the meetings quite as regularly as well. There
You mean
was
you?
always the one
Yeah.
that was singled out to come along, because, and the only reason they were there was because they hadn't been to a meeting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
don't
You
it's
need to see
usually
what's
me.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was in my the last congregation that I was in, there was somebody who was married to an unbeliever, and I remember some people didn't like to invite him round because, I mean, she had been warned about marrying an unbeliever and blah blah blah, and I just think, and I invited her round, and she said, "Oh, just me and her daughter." I said, no, all of you. Why, I wouldn't just invite you. Your husband can come too. Oh, thank you so much. I mean, how awful is that,
Aw,
really, to think that
that's really
we were
sad.
that particular and so up ourselves, or some people were so up themselves, that it's like your partner's excluded from this because he's not a JW or whatever, and you just think, how awful is that? And but yeah, we no longer have to behave that way.
The other thing that I think is really important as well, Shelley, is kind of connecting with other people. We speak about it later on in the podcast series, but there is a network of people that are happy to help.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you're in trouble, they will message you. If you're close to suicide, they will be messaging you every day to make sure that you are okay and that everything's okay. If you are on the verge of that, there's plenty of help out there. You don't just need these avenues of building a support circle. There is professional help out there. Use it. There is professional free help out there. The big one is Mind
And Samaritans.
and the Samaritans.
Yeah,
And
really
don't be
good.
afraid of the Samaritans. Don't worry, you're not going to be caught at a well having to witness to them. The main thing is getting on that horse and reaching for that help, because it's there. It really is there. The first place to start building that support network, get on Facebook. That's what I would say. If you need to do it anonymous, you can actually post anonymous in most of the ex-JW groups. However, I know I keep plugging Reddit, but Reddit is such a powerful resource. Do you know, just yesterday, we were at 87,000. This morning we're at 89,000 people there. You put up one message on there that you're in trouble, you've got 250 people there ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't exaggerate that. Every time I put a message on there, there's 250 odd people commenting on the same thing.
And strangely enough, I feel that's almost inherently because we're ex-witnesses.
Absolutely.
Because it is in, we'd do anything for another
Absolutely.
witness when we were witnesses. So to think that would ever change beyond us leaving would never make sense, and it's so right.
It's how it should be. It's a true community of people that truly understand. We sympathize. There's certain things that are unique to cult survivors. There's quite a few professionals both on the Facebook group, particularly in the ex-JW one. The ex-JW one, there's quite a few mental health professionals in there. Absolutely incredible, and they will actually help. There's also on the Reddit page, there's most of the moderators are actually in the mental health field.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they can guide you where it is. The other one that I don't know much about, on Faith to Faithless, that is getting quite a significant following now.
Yeah.
There's one of them actually, George in the group.
Yes. And Terry.
They're both in it. They regularly help people out.
Yeah. I think that's a good one, because it's not just for ex-JWs. It's for anybody leaving, or apostates, really, anybody leaving a religion. And again, I think it's really good at kind of, they do arrange meetups and stuff as well, I believe. Again, I think it's a really good one for signposting, because they're really experienced people. They're really, really good and can just point people in the right direction.
The other important one to mention, if you are a young person as well, JW support.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a young person, if you are in emergency, they have teams ready to talk to you, particularly if you've been kicked out of your family home. They will build that support network, that sanctuary that we speak about in other podcasts as well.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Also, particularly if you've woken up and you realise you are gay, so go and get it.
Stonewall's good for that as well.
Stonewall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a charity
Right.
for LGBTQIA.
Right, okay. So there we are. There's two places where as a young person you can reach out. The main thing is building that support network, is finding those resources. We can't list all of them, and I guarantee to you that in the comments below there will be more people suggesting other avenues. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. I didn't even know about Stonewall, so that's a new one even to me. And that's really good places to start. We talk later in episodes 8 and 11 about building your identity and then finding a purpose. This is kind of the first step of healing. So heal first, then start working out who you are and what you're capable of. And don't underestimate that support system. The one thing that is drilled into you as a witness is that you are a burden, that putting your issues onto someone else is a burden. You have to look after yourself. In fact, I remember one of the most damaging scriptures that I always think of that they talk about mental health, which is in Psalms. If you have an issue, take it to your bed. No, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. That will just fester and end up causing more damage than harm it could ever achieve. Mm-hmm. Reach out. Find that support network. There's so many apps out there now. My God, you can get an app for food. You can get an app for mental health. And a lot of the mental health things out there are free. Mm-hmm. I really can't recommend Mind enough. They've helped me out in a couple of times. they actually got me my therapist. I ended up pretty sure you could probably give us a story on Stonewall then, can you?
They signpost everyone to the best for them.
Gotcha.
But so each individual case, say someone's kicked out, there's LGBT hostels.
Okay.
So there's ways so that you're safe, because obviously when you're already vulnerable and you're already in a state because you've lost your family and everything, they will know where near you should contact. It wasn't available when they were there. I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't find out about Stonewall until I went to my first Pride about 2 years after.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's good that we're plugging it now, really.
Yeah, so Stonewall's always the best place to start.
Yeah.
Because obviously they've been going since the Stonewall riots in New York, when we had the first riots for human rights in the first place. So they are now there as the pillar to send you to the right so that you're safe now.
Yeah. And yeah, again, meetups, I keep plugging that one, but that was really fundamental for me in building my support network. Also gaming. What you can't see to those listening is behind the camera is actually my girlfriend that I met gaming. The gaming community is one of those very supportive, very friendly environments where you can find like-minded people, and never underestimate just how much you're worth, because you can bring something to someone's life that you'll never understand. And that's a support network. That is that circle of trust, of understanding each other.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that's some really good advice, and hopefully it's been helpful to our listeners. So thank you. See you next time.
No, thank you very much.